Police have located a Latrobe Valley couple that have been missing since last week. 17-year-old Carolyn Watson and 23-year-old Julian Buckwald contacted family saying they were at a property at Buchan. The circumstances surrounding the couple's disappearance still unclear. A group that's distributing a graphic anti-abortion pamphlet has defended its decision to use explicit photos of aborted fetuses. The hand-delivered pamphlet has sparked anger across regional Victoria, but the Tell the Truth coalition says its hard-hitting approach is justified.
Steve Bendel was horrified when he opened the anti-abortion pamphlet.
Pretty much when I opened it, some of the most disgusting and graphic images I think I've ever seen.
Mr Bendel has just been through an abortion.
It's brought up memories that I not that I've neglected them or pushed them away, it's just that I don't need to be reminded by somebody else.
That's not our intention to hurt anyone, but the reality is that children are being killed by abortion and people don't realise the grisly nature of it.
The Tell the Truth coalition says the campaign will continue.
They're real babies, they're real lives, and they would have liked to live.
I am aware of what goes on, I just don't need to have it smashed in my or put in my face like that.
The campaign has outraged many in communities across Gippsland, Bendigo and Ballarat. Many horrified the envelope could have been opened by a child.
Well, we did try to cover 4 children opening the envelope by putting it in a sealed envelope with a warning on it.
These images are explicit and disturbing in some way. And now, to anybody that has gone through that, whether it be miscarriages, whether it be abortions, whether it be their choice or a medical procedure, it's going to be twice as damaging for them. And they do not need this sort of stuff brought into their house.
Brooke Van Newton, Win News.
The federal government has guaranteed that carers and pensioners will not be stripped of their bonuses. Speculation surfaced last week that the payments would be stopped after the government failed to confirm whether the bonuses would remain in the federal budget. Last night, Prime Minister Rudd confirmed that carers will keep their $1,600 annual bonus and pensioners their $500 bonus. Parliament has also approved increased utilities allowances for almost 3 million seniors and pensioners. Repair work on Lanigan's Bridge is just days away from being completed after an 8-month process. The new structure will bring relief to Coongullah residents who have been living with only one route in and out of town.
As workers added the finishing touches today, the new Lanigan's Bridge barely resembled the dishevelled wreck that was ravaged by floods in June last year. The Wellington Shire says repairing the bridge has been a job well done.
We projected that it would be finished this month and it will be finished, so I would say next week sometime it'll be open for business.
Coongullah residents have been counting down the days.
I'm sure the people in Coongullah will be very, very pleased about it. Having to do the detour every day if you're working in Hayfield or got to go into Traralgon.
And it wasn't just the inconvenience of added travel time that was irking the locals. There was a fear that bushfires could have caused residents to be trapped in the town.
Immediately after the flood, the only way out was via Manson's Bridge, so you basically almost had to go into Newry. Now, with this done, that'll certainly cut that out.
Despite the bridge looking strong and sturdy, the Shire is asking for residents to remain patient for just a few more days.
Well, there's the entry guardrail to do, the safety bits and pieces like the stopping line and give way signs and all the other signage that needs to go with it.
The bigger, stronger Lanigan's Bridge will be ready for traffic early next week. The region's other flood recovery projects will continue over the coming months. Nick Butler, Win News.
2 water sampling areas in Gippsland have failed quality tests. The annual report into drinking water quality in Victoria found higher than acceptable levels of E. coli in water samples taken at Wilson's Promontory and Nicholson. Bushfires, drought and floods caused water quality problems last financial year, particularly in Gippsland. E. coli contamination of water supplies can cause gastroenteritis. The sister-in-law of Thomas Towers says she and her family are fearing for their lives following media comments from Thomas's father, Graham. Diane Taylor is pleading for the Mildura community not to judge them, saying their heart goes out to the Cardross crash victims' families.
Earlier today, lawyers for Thomas Towers fronted court in Melbourne, arguing Towers should not be sentenced in Mildura. Robert Richter QC claimed a Mildura hearing would be an unnecessary burden on counsel and that I don't fancy walking into court and being spat on.
We're in the court, so he's not going to walk around the streets, so I don't know when would spit at him.
There's fears holding the sentencing in Melbourne would be another emotional and financial burden the families could not afford to bear.
They need to be with their families, they need to be in the community where this began, and they need to see it finished here, as I've already said.
A decision on where the sentencing will be handed down will be made tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, controversial comments made by Graham Tao in support of his son has left other family members fearing for their lives.
My husband and our children have all been moved through death threats and that because of this accident. Now we're all back frightened again.
Diane Taylor has made an emotional plea on behalf of the extended Tao family to the Mildura community, saying they are sorry.
We'd all just like everybody in Mildura and everywhere else to know that Dad's speaking on behalf of himself from a father's point of view.
Hannah Ford, Win News.
Global warming experts are warning Australia's scientists have a big task on their hands helping the nation adjust to climate change. While acknowledging the Kyoto Protocol is a good first step, they say lifestyle changes are the key.
Combating climate change will be one of our biggest challenges. We have to not only reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, but we also have to adapt to more extreme weather conditions.
Both those things require a scientific underpinning. So we're identifying the science that needs to be done so the Australian community can meet its challenges.
At this week's forum, scientists are learning we need better observation of weather and better weather predictions, decades or even centuries into the future.
What's happening in the east coast of Australia? Will tropical cyclones become more severe? You need to understand how the climate system responds to warming to answer those questions.
Criticism of the Kyoto Protocol as a meaningless document dismissed.
It's certainly not going to solve the climate change problem, but we have to start somewhere. And if we don't take the first step, we'll never take subsequent steps.
The experts say there's plenty we can do here in Canberra to help. Our obsession with cars to get to and from work could come back to bite us.
Public transport, particularly in a city like Canberra, must play an important role. So the changes are lifestyle changes.
The forum concludes tomorrow. Glenn Osborne, Win News.
Coming up on Win News, the Grand Prix rally, motors around regional Victoria and an alarming increase in melanoma.